Here with us today we have Erri De Luca, the author of God's Mountain. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Can you start off by giving those who have not read your book a brief summary?
God's Mountain is a tale of a 13-year-old boy who lives in Naples, Italy, and his daily struggles to prove himself as a man. The boy works as a carpenter apprentice to earn money for his family, who live in relatively poor conditions. This is because his mom is sick throughout the novel, which separates the narrator from his father, as his father must pay for the medical treatment that she gets. Through this gap comes Maria, however, and she and the narrator become very close during the time they are together, if you know what I mean. They meet each other often in the secrets on top of their apartment homes, called the wash basins, where the boy practices with his boomerang. During the day, then, he works with the elder Don Raffagnello and Master Errico in the workshop. And this is sort of where the narrator is exposed to wisdom beyond his own. Don Raffagnello specifically intrigues the boy the most because of his hump and the stories that he imparts, stories of his life during the Holocaust and afterwards. Don Raffagnello is also a very virtuous man, so the boy develops chivalrous and idealistic ideals that are reflected in his actions toward the people of Naples. The book details the narrator's thoughts, memories, and the trials he goes through during the course of 1 year, in the time that he believes to be growing into a real man.
This book sounds like a typical coming-of-age story. How is it different than other books?
The struggles the boy goes through in his rural town are similar to any other such story. This book was greatly influenced by the stories of the Holy Grail, where knights must achieve their goals by passing obstacles and their virtuous ideas. Specifically, the story of Percival, who must pass obstacles to find his mother, reflects where in the book the narrator must overcome obstacles for his mother. This book stands out then because it is a more modern version of a coming-of-age story, making it more relatable to the reader and people today. Now, instead of relating to a young knight in shining armor, they can relate themselves to a young boy trying to make his mark in the world today.
Would you then explain why the narrator is never actually addressed with a name?
Without a name, the reader may reflect and relate to his own or her own life based on the narrator's thoughts and experiences. If he had a name, the narrator would be more of a secluded character, away from the reader and any relation.
As I read God's Mountain, I saw many symbols, most recognizable through the use of the boomerang. How would you use the boomerang to show the main character coming of age?
The boomerang is neither a toy nor a tool. Likewise, the main character is neither a boy nor a man. Thus, the boomerang becomes a weapon to the narrator, supporting his romantic idealism as being a chivalrous soldier fighting for what he believes in. The boomerang allows the main character to become stronger, and it represents the stage between youthhood and adulthood.
How does the boomerang help the main character become stronger?
He practices with the boomerang and it develops his muscles. He keeps the boomerang with him at all times and it keeps him comforted and confident. It also gives him a sense of peace because while working with the boomerang he concentrates on it, his swings and strengthening his muscles. In the beginning he is very secretive about his boomerang. As the story goes on, though, he opens to people about it, showing how he is becoming stronger psychologically, and his comfort zone is growing larger and larger.
How does the relationship between Maria and the main character change throughout the book?
As I said before, Maria fills that gap, that was created when the narrator's mother fell ill, and his family sort of fell apart. The traditional lifestyle of luxury and the boy that had was gone, so he had to cope, and he let Maria into his life. At first, the narrator resents her presence and the fact that she is exposing his secret boomerang. Gradually, he becomes more comforted with her as he grows confidence with himself. At Christmas, he says that he could not ask for anything more or anything else, showing how all he had lost when his mother fell ill has been filled with Maria in his life.
Maria seems to be far more mature than the main character. Like when she said that she's stronger than an adult. How does that differ from the main character?
Much of Maria's maturity is merely an illusion. Her difficult life at home, without a father, forces her to uphold a strong and confident personality. On the other hand, the main character lacks the confidence but slowly builds it up throughout the narrating. Also, the two of them hold different ideas of God and see the world in different ways. This juxtaposition of opposites is just a way of saying that they attract.
Maria says that their love is an alliance, a combative force. Against whom are they allied?
Maria has a more secular view on things, so her belief is that their love is not based on harmony and order, like a traditional Catholic would. Instead, she believes that love is an alliance between people, much like an alliance between nations to fight those who are less virtuous, or those fighting on the wrong side. The two complete each other, then, in order to survive the obstacles that they must go through. It is here that the narrator then figures out that he does not have to overcome the obstacles alone, but now he can accomplish them, his goals, with Maria.
Interesting. So tell me more about Don Raffaello. Why is he so important to the narrator and to the overall book?
Raffaello is a very religious and courteous man. For example, he mends the shoes for the poor, charging them nothing because it is what he believes God is asking him to do. His virtuous ideals are important to the development of the main character, as he creates his own personality in this coming-of-age story. Don Raffaello's religious beliefs also rub off onto the narrator. When Raffaello is said that it is only our virtues that God exists, the narrator takes this to heart and says that it is by virtue that he practices so that he may be a man.
It seems like Raffaello's optimism rubs off on the main character. It is evident throughout the story that Raffaello's hump and how the bones are punching his skin is eventually going to kill him. Why does he hold such optimism in the face of this overwhelming truth?
Don Raffaello believes that his hump is a blessing from God. It is because of his devout belief in God's will that he accepts the hump to be a casing for his wings. These wings will then take him to Jerusalem when God tells him to go.
So now I have a personal question for you. Where does your interest in Judaism, stories, symbols, etc., come from?
Oh, that is a very good question. It comes from the power of the Bible stories. They are not ordinary literature in my eyes, because ordinary literature tries to come close to the reader, in an attempt to flatter and entertain him. Here, the reader has to go toward it. And during the period when I was exposed to the Bible for the first time, my life was as empty as a desert, so I was searching for something that would bring water to my life. The Bible has words that a person needs in the desert, not in the centers of life or the center of a city. In the desert, a person encounters the boundary of his sanctity, and as it says in Psalms, a boundary for God and a boundary for man. That's my interpretation of the Bible, and that is why I start my day with it, and why religion is so important to the narrator's story, my story. He was deserted, and he needed water and food, as was I.
So would you say that the book is influenced by your experiences and aspirations as a teenager?
The book does contain many references to my own life. The main character is short-sighted, as am I. Also, many of the characters that influenced the narrator influenced me as when I was young. I remember especially the master of the workshop, who I named Master Errico in the book, had a significant impact on my life as a boy. He taught me how to save money and invest it when my parents were unable to teach me these essential things.
Now I'm wondering about your style of writing. Why did you decide to write this novel in such a symbolic and poetic fashion?
The surreal style of this book, with my similes, juxtaposition, and imagery, caused the reader to truly think about the message I am trying to convey to them. They may relate to the ideas or events that the narrator talks about by finding their own personal meaning. That is also why I use much symbolic or biblical symbolism in my novel, because the Bible is a sort of meditative tool or talisman. It allows one to discover oneself in the midst of nothing.
Well, thank you very much for being here today, and I highly recommend that everyone reads the book, God's Mountain.